Hello pen friends, it's JK Pens and I'm back with the first in our series of inexpensive Demonstrator fountain pens. We're going to kick it off with a very familiar pen, the Platinum Preppy. There's lots of reviews of Preppy on YouTube and elsewhere, lots of discussion about them. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of how it fares as a demonstrator pen and some of the pros and cons. So the first thing to know about the Preppy is it is inexpensive, generally $5 or less here in the US. This is the crystal, which is the fully transparent one. The other Preppies have a hint of color on the cap and on the barrel. They're all see-through, but this is the only one that's truly transparent. And it tends to, for some reason, run 50 cents to $1 more than the others. And oddly, it only comes in the 03, which is the fine nib. The other Preppies may be found in the 02, which is an extra fine, or the 05, which is a medium nib. And I actually personally prefer the 05. The 03 is okay. But that is one limitation. The nib, if you're not familiar with it, it looks like that. That's the feed. And these nibs are swappable. A bit of tape or a bit of rubber tubing makes it a little easier to slide it off. So if you really wanted a clear one with a different nib, you could buy one of the colored ones and then swap the nibs. The other thing to know about this pen as a demonstrator is it is by default a cartridge converter pen. So if you're not familiar with them, this is what the Platinum cartridges look like. They hold a lot of ink, but they are like a lot of cartridges. They're sort of a milky plastic, so I don't think it would be that great for showing off your ink. You could empty and refill a cartridge, but I don't think it would show off the ink all that well because it's not transparent. The other thing you could do in theory is you could eyedropper. So here, is you could use a converter. So here is my Platinum pre-fount with a converter. The thing is, the Platinum converters actually cost more than a Preppy, so it would be a lot of ink on my hands there. It would be a lot of investment in an inexpensive plastic pen. So the thing people typically do with these is they eyedropper them. That's possible for two reasons. One is there are no metal parts to interact chemically with the ink, and the other is that the barrel has no vents. The barrel is actually a solid piece of plastic, and in fact it injection molded. You can see it's a belly button there. In fact, it holds a lot. So I've got here a ink syringe with 4 mils of water in it, and watch this, they'll all go right in there. So if you get like, not quite 4, just under. Actually, it would probably work without overflowing. So if you get a sample of ink, you could just plop the whole sample in a Preppy and get on with it. Okay, so how do you eyedropper it? There's videos on this. I'm not going to go through it in full detail, but oops. You will need some silicone grease, and you will need some O-rings. As you can see, this is from Goulet, but you can get this from a lot of pen retailers, and if you own a TWSBI Eco, they actually come with the grease. And again, the O-rings, I've bought them from Goulet before. I got these ones from Jet Pens. All you do, you slide the O-ring on there, put some silicone grease on the threads, tighten her up, smush that O-ring a little bit, and you're good to go, okay? And then you would have a nice eyedropper pen. I'm not going to do it with this one because I'm going to be running a giveaway at the end, and I want whoever gets this to be able to fill it with whatever ink they want. Because one of the downsides of the Preppy is they are almost impossible to ever clean out. There's a lot of collector fins. This part is not removable. This part of the feed is not removable, so at least I've never figured out how, so it's really hard even with lots of flushing to get it. So I just dedicate them to one color. Speaking of which, I want to show you something, which is I've got a Preppy here that almost exactly 6 months ago, July of 2019, I put in a sample of Noodler's Ganges River Blue that I got as a mystery sample from, I'm pretty sure it was from Goulet. And I didn't really trust the Noodler's ink in any of my other pens. I mean, look at how it's just coated that barrel. But let's see how it writes after 6 months of sitting in this pen. Ready? This is look at that. Noodler's. It's a interesting ink. It has a very, it's not as nuclear as some of like the Bay State and stuff. but it does look to me like it might be a somewhat pigmented ink. I'm not sure. It's kind of got a milky blue color to it. And yeah, so that's been sitting in there for 6 months. And the reason it's able to do that is the inside of the cap of a Preppy is spring-loaded inner cap. So you push this in and it kind of locks, and then that inner cap comes down over the nib, and eventually, it basically makes it kind of airtight. Eventually it will dry out a bit. Here's another one, same thing. 6 months ago, I put in Roar and Klinger Alt Gold Grün, and of course it's a little hard to tell on video and if you're not familiar with ink, but this is a little darker than it should be, and it's just become a little bit concentrated, but still it's totally usable after 6 months of sitting idle. The downside, so I mentioned the nib selection for the crystal is limited. I mentioned the fact that it's not easy to clean. The other thing, to be honest, is they do break. They're not the sturdiest plastic on planet Earth. Some of these you can see appear to be developing kind of, I don't use these a lot, some spontaneous cracks. So there's a crack in the cap of this guy, just hairlines. And I've actually had barrels fail. And if you've got, a couple mils of ink in a cracked barrel, pretty soon that means you've got a couple mils of ink in your pants pocket or in your pen case or whatever. So I love these as inexpensive demonstrators, with caveats, one of them being I would not use it as a carry pen. I would trust, in fact I do use this Pelikan as a carry pen. It's super sturdy, really well made, but it's also 20 something times more expensive than these. What I do with these is I get a few of them, I dedicate them to an ink, and then I just keep them in a craft box. And then if I'm like, oh man, I really want some of that Goldgrün, or here's one with the broader nib swapped in from a different pen. This is, that sounds scratchy. Must have done something to that. So again, that's not an ink I want to use every day, but that does look like it's gotten really concentrated. This one's almost a year, actually. You can see the glitter particles collecting in the collectors. Ironically. So anyways, so that's my thought on the Platinum Preppies as an entry-level demonstrator pen for showing off your inks. This is just a sticker that comes off, so you get a nice transparent barrel. All right, that's our first one down. See you for the next one. Bye.